This country became wealthy through oil, yet it has almost stopped buying gasoline-powered cars. Norway still exports fuel to the world, while most new cars sold within the country are powered by electricity. Even more remarkably, Norway turned its oil profits into a sovereign wealth fund worth more than $2 trillion. And yet, a single cup of coffee here can still make travelers think twice. In this video, we will explore what Norway did to become so wealthy, environmentally friendly, and stable. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and comment below with the one thing about Norway that makes you most curious. Number 15. Norway rich from oil, leading the electric car era. Oil beneath the North Sea changed Norway's destiny. For many decades, this resource brought enormous revenue and helped the small northern European country build a strong economy. But Norway chose a different path. Instead of continuing to depend on gasoline-powered cars, almost all new cars sold there are now electric vehicles. Out of every 100 cars purchased in the most recent year, as many as 96 were electric. Oil profits were not spent away either. Most of that money was placed into the National Sovereign Wealth Fund and invested across many markets. Today, that fund is worth more than $2 trillion. If divided evenly by population, it would equal about $350,000 per person. Even so, Norway still has a very high cost of living, to the point that even a cup of coffee can make many people stop and think. Geographically speaking, the country lies at the northern edge of Europe, stretching across the Scandinavian peninsula and reaching close to the Arctic. Its area is nearly 385,000 square kilometers, yet its population is only about 5,600,000 people. Ancient glaciers shaped its fjords, rocky islands, and long coastline. Farther north is Svalbard, a land of polar bears, glaciers, and the global seed vault buried deep inside an icy mountain. Number 14. A journey through Norway's most beautiful cities and fjords. The journey begins in Oslo, a city with a very different character from many other European capitals. It has no grand boulevards or extravagant palaces. Instead, it is compact, quiet, and located at the end of a fjord, where forests, hills, and the sea are only minutes from the city center. Its most recognizable landmark is the Oslo Opera House, built from white marble, with a sloping roof that allows visitors to walk upward as though they were crossing a sheet of ice. Nearby, Vigeland Park features more than 200 sculptures portraying the journey of human life, while Holmenkollen and Akershus Fortress overlook the city. Inside the museums, visitors can see the Scream at the Munch Museum, explore polar expeditions at the Fram Museum, and learn about Norway's Viking heritage. Leaving Oslo, the journey continues west to Bergen, Norway's second-largest city. The rows of colorful wooden houses in Bryggen recall the time when this was one of Northern Europe's major trading ports. From the Flybanen, visitors can enjoy sweeping views of the city and harbor, even though Bergen is famous for its frequent rain. Deep within the fjords, Geirangerfjord and Nærøyfjord appear between towering cliffs, waterfalls, and calm stretches of water. Farther away lies Preikestolen, a dramatic cliff rising more than 600 meters above the landscape. During the summer, villages along the fjords can become crowded with cruise ship passengers, so early mornings, late afternoons, or the quieter months outside the peak season are the best times to experience Norway at its most peaceful. Number 13. Northern Norway. The Northern Lights, the Midnight Sun, and Sami culture. Traveling farther north, Norway becomes increasingly wild as the journey crosses the Arctic Circle and reaches Tromsø, the largest city in the northern part of the country. Surrounded by snowy mountains and cold seas, Tromsø is known as the capital of the Arctic and one of the most famous places to see the northern lights. From late autumn to early spring, bands of green and purple light may appear across the sky, although no one can guarantee that visitors will see them. The weather, cloud cover, and pure luck all determine the experience. To improve their chances, travelers often leave the city lights behind, follow the aurora forecast, and stand outside for hours in temperatures as low as -15 degrees Celsius. Beyond the aurora, the cable car to Storsteinen offers panoramic views of Tromsø, while the winter fjords become hunting grounds for humpback whales and orcas searching for herring. Visitors can also ride a dog sled or spend the night in a traditional Sami tent. When summer arrives, the sun barely sets for several weeks. Local people hike, kayak, and even play golf at 1 in the morning. Far offshore, the Lofoten Islands appear with red wooden cabins, steep mountains, and villages that depend on cod fishing. This northern region is also home to the Sami people, a community that continues to preserve its language, traditional clothing, and distinctive yoik singing. In Karasjok, one of the coldest places in Norway, almost every new car sold is electric, showing that this technology can still operate in extremely harsh winter conditions. Number 12. How Norwegians connect without saying too much. For many Americans, a first visit to Norway can feel surprisingly unfamiliar. In the United States, speaking with strangers or exchanging a friendly greeting is completely normal. In Norway, many people maintain a clearer sense of personal distance, and on buses, they often avoid sitting beside a stranger when other seats are still available. Behind this reserve is janteloven, or the law of jante, a principle that reminds people not to consider themselves more important than the community, not to boast, and not to place themselves above others. This way of thinking can sometimes make newcomers feel that fitting in is difficult, yet it also helps keep social differences relatively small, so fewer people move too far ahead or are left too far behind. During the winter, Norwegians turn to koselig, a feeling of warmth and closeness created by candlelight, wool blankets, hot drinks, or a quiet evening with family. It feels similar to the moment when American families gather around a fireplace, although Norwegians often express it in a more reserved way. Despite their privacy, Norwegians remain connected to their communities through the tradition of dugnad. People voluntarily work together to clean their neighborhood, repair a playground, or help a neighbor facing difficulties. This shared spirit allows a society that values personal space to maintain strong trust and social connection. Tu Sun. Number 11. Norway. Accepting high taxes for a stable life. Norway's wealth is clearly reflected in its social welfare system. Public health care is funded through taxes, so a visit to the doctor costs only about $30. Once the total cost of medical appointments, tests, and prescription medicine exceeds roughly $300 in a single year, the government covers the rest. Children under 16 receive care at little or no cost, helping raise average life expectancy to around 83 years. Oil revenue is reinvested in hospitals, schools, and social support programs. In return, people accept higher taxes. From an early age, children attend barnehage, where play and exploring nature are valued as much as classroom learning. Compulsory education from age 6 to 16 is free, creating a more equal starting point. In the workplace, the standard workweek is about 37.5 hours, and finishing work at 4 in the afternoon is considered normal. When a baby is born, parents can choose either 49 weeks of leave at full pay or 59 weeks at 80% of their income. Around 15 weeks are reserved specifically for the father. These benefits provide stability, yet they also raise an important question. What have Norwegians accepted in exchange for maintaining this way of life? Every journey becomes more meaningful when it is shared with others who have the same passion for discovery. Subscribe to the channel and become part of this community. Together, we will continue exploring more remarkable places and stories from around the world. Number 10. How Norway uses its oil wealth. In the late 1960s, Norway was still a modest fishing nation on the edge of Europe. Everything changed in 1969 when oil was discovered beneath the North Sea. What shaped the country's future, however, was not only the discovery of this new resource, but also the way Norway chose to use it. Instead of spending all the profits, the country created an oil fund and saved most of the revenue for future generations. Money from oil and natural gas was invested around the world, while the government placed strict limits on how much could be withdrawn each year. As a result, the fund is now worth more than $2 trillion and owns about 1.5% of all publicly listed shares worldwide. Beyond its enormous size, the fund also follows ethical principles and has withdrawn investments from companies accused of harming the environment or violating human rights. Norway's position is clear. The natural resources available today also belong to people who have not yet been born. Even so, this model remains controversial. One side wants to withdraw more money to address current needs, while the other wants to continue saving. The greatest contradiction is that Norway's environmentally responsible image was built with revenue from oil and gas, resources the country still continues to extract and export. For that reason, the future of Norway's oil industry remains a question, without a clear and widely accepted answer. Number 9. An oil exporting country that almost only buys electric cars. Norway's greatest contradiction can be seen on its roads every day. The country earns enormous profits from oil and natural gas, yet it also leads the world in removing fossil fuels from domestic transportation. Around 96% of all new cars sold are electric, and in several recent months, that figure came close to 100%. This transformation did not come from a single ban. It was the result of many years of consistent policy. Gasoline-powered cars are taxed more heavily, while electric vehicles receive reduced road tolls, lower ferry fees, and support from a charging network that reaches even remote areas. As a result, people are still free to buy gasoline-powered cars, but electric vehicles have become the more economical choice. Beginning in 2026, some incentives for expensive electric models have started to be reduced, showing that the transition is still being adjusted. Behind this shift is a clean energy system, with nearly 90% of the country's electricity generated by hydropower. In Oslo, electric buses move quietly through the streets, helping reduce urban emissions. On a broader level, this strategy shows how Norway is using today's oil revenue to prepare for an economy that will depend less on oil in the future, rather than waiting until this resource gradually loses its importance. Number 8. Nature and food in everyday Norwegian life. For Norwegians, nature is not simply something to admire. It is an essential part of daily life. The idea of friluftsliv, meaning life in the open air, can be seen in hiking, skiing, kayaking, or picking berries in the forest, even in rain or snow. This way of life is protected by allemannsretten, the right to move freely, and camp across most areas of land, including privately owned property, as long as visitors cause no damage and leave no trace behind. As a result, mountains, forests, and coastlines are rarely divided by fences. On weekends, many families travel to a height, a small cabin in the mountains or near the coast, where there is less Wi-Fi, more time for books, a warm fireplace, and long walks outdoors. Norwegian cuisine was also shaped by the cold climate and the need to preserve food. Salmon is the most familiar example, and much of the salmon used in sushi around the world is raised in Norway's fjords. Brunost is a brown cheese with a naturally sweet flavor, made by slowly cooking whey. The most controversial dish is lutefisk, dried fish soaked in an alkaline solution, which reflects a time when people had to store food in order to survive the winter. More approachable dishes include kjøttkaker, served with potatoes and brown gravy, reindeer meat from the north, and waffles with coffee during warm and comforting koselig moments. Number 7. The price of quality of life in Norway. The true cost of Norway's high quality of life becomes clear through everyday expenses. The country is regularly ranked among the most expensive in the world, and Oslo is where travelers notice it most quickly. A cup of coffee can cost around $5, while a glass of beer often reaches $12. Housing costs are also high, with rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center usually exceeding $1,200 per month. At a restaurant, a mid-range main course costs between $30 and $40, while a full-day public transportation ticket is around $11. Strong alcoholic drinks are sold only through state-owned Vinmonopolet stores, which often close early and remain closed on Sundays. High taxes on alcohol and tobacco are applied deliberately to reduce consumption. Unlike in the United States, tipping is not required because service workers generally receive relatively high wages. In return, the average annual income in Norway is around $70,000, although a significant portion is paid in taxes. Norwegians accept this in exchange for stable healthcare, education, and social welfare. For American travelers, the most effective ways to save money are to cook their own meals, use public transportation, and spend time exploring forests, fjords, and the northern lights, experiences that cost little or nothing. Number 6. The challenges of living and traveling in Norway. Although Norway is considered one of the best places to live in the world, it still has drawbacks that travelers and newcomers should consider. The high cost of living can be shocking, especially in major cities, so preparing a clear budget before the trip is essential. In northern Norway, the polar night lasts for several weeks, causing the sun to almost disappear and affecting both mood and mental well-being. In daily life, the reserved nature of many Norwegians can also make it difficult for foreigners to build friendships and feel included, particularly for those accustomed to a more open culture like that of the United States. In higher education, since 2023, most students from outside Europe have been required to pay tuition fees, usually ranging from $8,000 to $18,000 per year. For American travelers, Norway is part of the Schengen area, so they may enter for a short visit without applying for a visa in advance. With a maximum stay of 90 days within any 180-day period. ETIAS is expected to begin operating in late 2026 and will remain valid for 3 years after approval. Passports must also remain valid for at least 3 months after the date of departure from the Schengen area. The best time to visit depends on the experience you are seeking. October through March is suitable for seeing the northern lights, while May through August is the season of green fjords and the midnight sun. Number 5. Norway's secret role behind Japanese salmon sushi. When people hear the word sushi, most immediately think of Japan, where this dish has become a global symbol. Yet the raw salmon sushi that is so familiar today did not actually begin in Japan. Before the 1980s, if a customer ordered raw salmon in Tokyo, many traditional chefs would refuse to serve it. Wild Pacific salmon often carried a risk of parasites, so Japanese people usually ate it only after it had been thoroughly cooked or heavily salted. At that time, placing raw salmon on sushi rice was considered almost unacceptable. From Norway's cold fjords, however, a major change began. During the 1980s, Norway had an abundant supply of farmed Atlantic salmon with rich flesh, an attractive orange color, and qualities that made it more suitable for eating raw. Because production exceeded domestic demand, Norwegians decided to export the salmon to Japan and persuade the market to use it for sushi. For many years, they had to overcome the doubts of chefs, distributors, and consumers. Eventually, its consistent quality, soft texture, and rich flavor helped the fish gain acceptance. From that turning point, salmon sushi spread widely and became one of the most popular dishes in the world. A food closely associated with Japan, therefore has an important chapter in its history that began in the fjords of Norway. Number 4. Longyearbyen, the town where the dead are not buried. In the frozen Svalbard archipelago, Longyearbyen is famous for a rule that sounds like science fiction. People who die are generally not buried there. The reason is not superstition or legend, but the permafrost that covers the ground throughout the year. Temperatures are so low that bodies decompose extremely slowly, turning the earth into a natural freezer, capable of preserving human tissue and traces of disease for many decades. The concern became more serious when scientists studied victims of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic and found that genetic material from the virus was still preserved inside the frozen bodies. Since then, new burials in Longyearbyen have largely stopped to prevent old pathogens from remaining beneath the ice. In reality, no one is punished simply for dying in the town. However, people who are seriously ill, elderly, or in need of end-of-life care are often flown to mainland Norway because local medical facilities can handle only basic cases. For this reason, Svalbard remains a place where people come to work, conduct research, and explore the Arctic. Yet their final journey usually ends somewhere else, where the ground is warm enough for a normal burial. Number 3. The most humane prison in the world. In the middle of Oslofjord, Bastøy Island appears peaceful, with wooden houses, wide fields, and calm water, making it easy to mistake the place for an eco-resort. In reality, it is one of the most unusual prisons in the world. Prisoners do not live behind rows of heavy bars, and they are not required to wear harsh institutional uniforms. They stay in small houses, cook their own meals, work on farms, care for animals, play sports, and sometimes swim in the sea during summer. The philosophy here is clear. The punishment for committing a crime is the loss of freedom, not the loss of human dignity. For that reason, Bastøy does not try to create fear. Instead, it provides an environment similar to life outside prison, allowing inmates to learn responsibility, cooperation, and preparation for their return to society. Every task performed on the island, from farming and repairs to caring for horses, helps them maintain discipline and feel that they still have value. Prison staff also act more as guides than as simple guards. The most notable result is that the reoffending rate among people released from Bastøy is only about 16%, significantly lower than in many traditional prison systems. This model shows that rehabilitation can sometimes be more effective when people are treated with responsibility, trust, and a genuine opportunity to rebuild their lives. Number 2. A royal love story that overcame class barriers. Beyond its majestic fjords, Norway is also home to one of the most famous royal love stories in 20th century Europe. The central figures are King Harald V and Queen Sonja. In 1959, while he was still crown prince, Harald fell in love with Sonja Haraldsson, a commoner and the daughter of a tailor. Within the royal family at that time, a marriage between the heir to the throne and someone outside the nobility was considered difficult to accept. Some even feared it could affect the future of the monarchy. For 9 years, their relationship had to remain private, as they faced opposition from the royal family and pressure for Harald to marry someone of equal social status. Harald refused to give up. He declared that he would marry only Sonja, or remain unmarried for the rest of his life. This meant that the Norwegian royal family might be left without a direct heir. Faced with his determination, his father, the king, and the government finally gave their approval. The wedding took place in 1968 and was warmly welcomed by the public. In 1991, when Harald became king, Sonja became Queen of Norway. Once viewed as an unsuitable commoner, she earned the respect of the Norwegian people and became a symbol of enduring love that overcame class barriers and entered the history of Norway's royal family. Number 1. Norway's most colorful national day. On May 17th, Norway's quiet streets suddenly come alive with color for the country's national day. People of all ages, from young children to the elderly, wear bunad, traditional clothing that is carefully tailored and richly decorated with hand embroidery. Each bunad can be worth several thousand US dollars, while also representing the wearer's hometown, family history, and local identity. What makes this celebration especially distinctive is that it does not focus on military vehicles or displays of national power. Instead, children take center stage. Thousands of students carry Norwegian flags, march through the streets to the sound of brass bands and drums, and continue toward the royal palace. Along both sides of the route, people cheer, wave flags, and share an atmosphere that feels more like a family festival than a political ceremony. Red, white, and blue flags cover public squares, balconies, and streets across the country. On this day, children also enjoy a charming privilege. They can eat as much ice cream and as many hot dogs as they like without their parents stopping them. For this reason, Norway's National Day is not only an expression of national pride through bunad and colorful parades. It is also a time for families to be together, for children to become the heart of the celebration, and for community spirit to be expressed through simple joy on every street. After this journey, Norway appears not only through its fjords, northern lights, and peaceful cities. Behind that, beauty is a country that chose to save for the future, invest in its people, and accept high taxes in exchange for long-term stability. Even so, life here still has its disadvantages, from high living costs and dark winters to the sense of loneliness that can exist in a reserved society. Norway is not a perfect model, but the way it uses its natural resources shows that wealth only has real meaning when it serves many generations. If this video helped you understand Norway better, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. What impressed you most about this country?